Sure they can hear
Good
us.
morning. It is a lively Sunday morning here on Rise and Shine Sundays. Some days, when you're experimenting with things, I see saying nodding. So I'm going to hope that on some level, everything is good right now in the world of YouTube. Um, and uh, let us just say welcome. Um, I I wanted to pick a topic this week that could inspire a lot of conversations. And I know that the subject of AI is something that's on everybody's mind. I mean, I cannot tell you how almost everybody that you run in today has an opinion about where AI is going, where is it taking us, what are we doing? And so, on this sort of interesting version of Rise and Shine Sundays, we're inviting you into a conversation about where is AI taking us. And one of the nice things about having friends, everyone that you're seeing in this room is not an AI. They are actually human beings. Joining us this morning in the upper chambers is Sang D. Good morning, Sang.
Good morning and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
We are also very lucky to have one of the very first people that I met in an online community that was been so helpful for me. And uh, if you ever want to know any widget that has ever been invented and how it can be used correctly, the woman with more letters after her name, Stacy Braiuca, is with us this morning on Rise and Shine Sundays. Welcome, Stacy.
Yeah, otherwise known as Stacy B in some circles. So there you go.
And also known as the Squirrel Wrangler and others.
And the squirrel wrangler and, who knows what. who knows what.
Well, if you are joining us this morning, we're glad you're here. And we're going to do something a little bit. Oh, and I forgot to introduce, of course, the one person who's always here with me, our Canadian fellow. Good morning, Ray.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
Nice to have all of you here. This morning, we're going to be talking about, as I said earlier in the opening, a subject about where is AI taking us? And I guess the best way to begin this conversation on Rise and Shine Sundays is to say two things. We are not experts on AI. All of us in this room use AI. We use it differently. We know that people have strong feelings about it. We want to involve you in this conversation because that's what we do here at Rise and Shine Sundays. We realize that this is a really, really loaded topic for a lot of people. I think I was sharing with my colleagues in this room last week that I have so many friends now that are using AI to make themselves more prolific. And I actually wanted to title this episode, Is AI Making You Artificially Intelligent? Because, the ability to create content is really we're gonna talk a little bit about how AI is so pervasive in our lives, and we're going to talk a little bit about with each other. But we really want to hear from you. If you'd like to join us in studio, you can do that at RSS Live. But we're so grateful that the Breakthrough Show Network provides us with this opportunity to broadcast every Sunday morning. We're also keeping a monitor of the chat in YouTube on the Breakthrough Show Network. So, saying you're always really good about getting us grounded. So, where is AI taking us, and why should this be even something that we take a look at as a subject?
Well, I like to take it way back, right? Which is AI has been around since the 30s, right? And you're like, what? There was people thought about it back then. There's actually some fellows back in the 50s who were thinking about it because they were like, can computers think? Can they do this? Can they do that? And if you think about just how technology has come to where we are, right? I came from a space where there was no internet. I'm an AOL type of girl. I even had somebody send me an email the other day with their AOL email address, and I was like, dude, does that something still work? And he was like, yes, it has my whole life in there. And I was like, bless your heart. So when I think about how there was no internet, there was no computers, there's nothing. Now their phone is basically a computer. When you think about how even before COVID and all those things, it was, what does it started tracking your behavior. So what happened is computers started tracking behaviors and patterns in terms of, why do you shop here? What do you go look at? What That's why all these analytics, I say analytics, not algorithms, different
Mm-hmm.
analytics in the back end of like your website. When I had a website, I would always track, like, where did everybody go? Where did they fall off? So then I could look to see, why did they fall off there? Was there a pattern there? Kind of just looking like that. So artificial intelligence can make us more efficient when you find the tools and use them how they're designed, that help you. Like, think of it as like an asset to your life. Like, what can this tool do for me? I always
Right.
tell people, it's a hammer. I have a hammer, I can build a house, or I can break some glass. Whatever's fun for you, right? Like, whatever you decide to do,
It's
you can do it. So you get to choose how you use the tools in AI, for sure.
Well, and you just used an interesting word. Ray and I have had conversations about this prior to Sunday morning. Ray, you have an interesting thought about AI and tools, right?
Yeah, I love that saying started with a retrospective context. Is where's AI coming from? It's like you just said, it's not new, but also going back to the '60s. Another crazy Canadian, Marshall McLuhan, came
Mhm.
with he's the guy that the medium is the message. If there are any folks that remember that one, but essentially he determined that we shape our tools and our tools shape us.
Mhm.
So it's not a neutral position that we occupy. As we start doing it, and it changes our thinking patterns, and also it looks for those. What we start to do is we start to behave differently.
Mhm.
So AI is, and I'll toss it back to you guys, but AI is something not to replace, even though there are those who are looking to replace, in human beings. It is a tool that we should use wisely.
Okay, I
Mhm.
like that. Well, Stacy, you had a lot of experience, using these tools. What about Ray's advice? Is it about using it wisely? Or is it about,
Oh,
there's some people who are just absolutely petrified and don't want to use it at all.
I would definitely mirror, both what Sang and Ray said, and go back to the fact that our first tool was fire.
Mm. Mhm.
And any of the tools we use, the decision on how to use the tool has always been made by humans. So
Mhm.
it's not the tool that we need to be afraid of. It's figuring out what decision the other human, of the 8.4 billion humans on the planet with each having movies in their own head that are all accurate, each of their somebody else's movie, Jamie Rich's movie is different about how to use fire.
Mhm. Mhm.
How do I trust Jamie Rich to use fire for good or evil? Well, that goes back to the human relationship. And
Mhm.
I would trust that Jamie Rich isn't gonna burn us all up in here. I mean, just because I know him, I've met him in person, I've spent time with him, I've built a relationship.
Right.
So it's the human relationship that we need to be, we all get worried about the technology, but really what we need to be concerned about ever is, how does the human use the technology?
Mhm.
And technology goes all the way back to fire. And so I would say the how we use AI is in that same place,
Right.
and the feels that we have. Now, that's not to say that people don't have feels about technology,
Right.
because that's where they first place the feel.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And it's learning how to figure out where that feeling actually comes from,
Right.
and then dealing with the feeling.
It's funny that you should have started with the word fire, and thank you for that idea. I would never really burn anyone in this room, so that's just so
No,
you
I
know.
don't yeah, I
But
don't think you're a pyro.
thank you. But one of the things that's different about AI is that sometimes you can't even see when it's being used, right? And I think
Mhm.
that that's one of the reasons why people get so afraid of that, because they feel like it is above them. It is above them and working against them. There is a power, and there is an energy, there is a force. It plays into all of our conspiratorial, so no matter what you have a feeling about something, you can plug your beliefs about AI in there. and just expand it, right? So in other words, if I think that, the government is tracking everything that I'm doing, and and that's a big issue and a concern for me, I'll just point to AI as another example of that. If I am somebody who wants to be able to automate my business and I've learned about all this and I've got to stay ahead, I'll point to AI to say that this can happen. If I, so it's it's a little different. I love the basis that all of you are giving it. But there is something that's kind of unique and of this moment about something called AI, because we haven't had the conversation about how do I choose to use it, right? It seems like it's already coming at us, and like that decision's been made for us. Do you ever feel that way, saying? I mean, do you ever feel like it's being foisted on you?
Well, I won't say for myself it doesn't feel that way, because again, when the internet came out, when Facebook came out, when all those social media platforms came out, I wanted to know how they worked, because my kids were beginning to have access to those types of things, right? So for me, I've just kind of been ahead of the technology. I feel like I want to know what's happening, what new things are coming out. Now, I will say AI is such a big thing, because it's literally in anything that we do. Just like it probably, what Netflix started however long ago, you were getting things that said, hey, you, based on what you've been watching, we recommend these. And that, again, human pattern. What have you been clicking? Like if I logged into Stacy's, pretty much it doesn't look like mine. If I logged into Jamie's, his isn't going to look like mine. That's why we all have different profiles. So even thinking about how that just comes into play is I wanted to know how it works before, so I could teach it, but also so I have that understanding of how it can be an asset in my life, to be a tool that I can use for me, rather than me being used.
Well, but Stacey, you work a lot with people who are resistant and afraid or concerned or don't have a framework. Correct? I mean, that's part of the work that you do with helping people.
Right.
And so
So
I mean, is there an education piece? Do you let people sort of find their own way with it? How do you, like, if somebody comes up to you and says, well, all that tech, it just scares me, I don't want to use it. But I guess I kind of have to, don't I? I mean, can you guide us through that process?
sure, I'm gonna follow my my sister for another mister over there. It's not that any tool is going to do something directly to us, or that we have to use the tool. So my view is always start where that individual is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Always. You always start where the individual is and figure out where they are choosing to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then help them navigate to get there.
So what you're saying is that some people may have a use of AI that is this, and this, and another person may have a use that's AI that's all in and is using it to, put together lots of functions. So for you, is it about giving the control, back to the individual? Because I think so many people. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's having them recognize they're responsible for their own stuff.
Right.
Oh.
And I will say, even in the job search segment, there's so many aspects that, like, when individuals are coming to me from job search perspective, they're like, how do I do this? What is this? What does this mean? What is LinkedIn AI? What is Monster AI? What is this? And there's so many tools, it becomes overwhelming. And that's the part where I think Stacey's going to, is that because there's so many, it's like being for me, it's like if I came into a room and there's 100 pair of heels and I had to pick one, like, oh my goodness, right? But if you give me 5 and
disastrous.
I can choose from the 5, I'm going to have a better time picking from the 5, because I know what do I want to do. So it's the same aspect, I think, in the job search too, in that place. But I have people who still still putting their home addresses on their resumes. So that they are not, they don't have not necessarily access, they don't have the experience yet to understand, how does this AI tool work for me, rather than I have to use it.
All right.
Mhm.
So what you're saying again is it goes back to something that we talk about a lot on Rise and Shine Sundays anyway, is which is sort of understanding your own power and your own choices about how you do
Mhm.
things, right? So
Absolutely.
maybe the conversation when we're asking ourselves, there's a little hand that's going up. Stacy is using some of the tools. Hey, I'm going to also point out something. If you'd like to join us live in the studio, like our good friend Russ is here right now, you can do that at any time by going to RSS Live. You can join us in the conversation. You can post in the chat on YouTube at the Breakthrough Show Network, or you can actually post to our chat here in the RSS, the Rise and Shine Sunday Studio Live. But go back to that for a second with me, Stacy. So, I mean, I recognize it's my choice, right? But a lot of the people that I come into contact with still feel that AI is a thing outside of themselves that they sort of have to kind of go into, you know, a Star Wars battle with. Like, I'm going to have to battle this AI. You know, it it's actually a character in my life. It's everywhere, and um, maybe you don't run into people like that, but do you ever talk to people who feel like AI is out to get them, out to take my
Oh,
job,
oh,
out to take this?
Oh yeah.
always, always. And actually my answer to that one is August 1st, 1981, 12:01 AM.
Okay, I'll bite.
What happened?
What
Tell us.
happened?
And just no one? Really? Anybody in
Ray?
the
Wait,
chat?
what's a little? We'll ask
12:01
Ray. Do
AM.
you know what that date
Yeah,
was?
I don't
yeah,
even.
I have a bad memory, but Stacy already told
We
me this one, but I can't
we
remember.
yeah. MTV knew what it was doing when it played the
Oh,
first
That's it. Yeah.
video on its revolutionary channel that
oh,
terrified one generation,
gives me chills. Yeah.
thinking that something's been forced on it,
Yes.
and excited and energized another generation who was
Oh,
going to consuming music in a new way.
yes.
And the generation that was terrified thought, "Oh my god, this is going to kill these children are going to die. They're not going to flourish because they've been watching MTV."
Mhm.
Or the
Mhm.
And the
well,
name
the
of the
yeah.
video, anybody? I know, Ray, I know
Yeah,
we've had that.
radio killed the video star. Yeah, now or
Yeah,
video
video
killed the radio
and
star. Sorry.
and did video kill the radio star.
No, absolutely not. It
And
makes
not only that, but now as we're speaking now, this has been my stance on AI since for years now, actually. And as we're speaking today on May 10th, 2026, MTV is no longer in existence, but
Yeah.
humans are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
those of us who grew up with it did flourish.
Mhm.
Maybe partly because of it, because we had this new expansive way of consuming music.
Right?
So my story is that there's always something that a previous generation is saying, or people who are in whatever ages is saying, "This is going to destroy us," or "This is going to destroy me," or "This is overwhelming to me. This is gonna take my job."
Mhm.
And then that tool does not do
Exactly.
that, but what it does is goes back to what Ray I was saying that brilliant Canadian said about the what is it? The medium?
The medium is the message, but he
The
also
medium
added,
is the
I
message.
have a follow-up to that one once you're done.
Yes, and I think that it goes back to that. It goes back to humans are impacted by the things around us, all of them, all of the tools, all of the other humans, all of it, and that it is a synergistic dance, and
Mhm.
that's what we're on this planet for.
Mhm.
Well, Ray, you wanted to follow up with
Oh,
what?
that's so well said, Stacy, as far as the dance. Marshall McLuhan also had another one, which he referred to as the laws of media. We're continually upgrading or changing our tools, and the
Mhm.
tools are changing us. So he figured out. So he had this story process of basically saying, what does the new tool give us that we didn't have before? It's
Mhm.
kind of the four R's. What did the tool? So it basically creates something or gives us an ability we didn't have before, but it'll reach a stage of maturity where it actually starts to reverse back to what we had. So he uses, well, he didn't use it, but other people said, okay, look at email when it first came out. Email for now is considered, why do you use email? Email replaced letter writing. Then email got superseded by other aspects. So basically, there's a lot of change. Technology is an extension of humans.
Yes.
We
Mhm.
create the tools, we use the tools, we learn, and you can, if you take every tool and every process and walk through, what did it change?
Mhm.
Where did it reach its peak capacity? Then it reverses the value and something new comes in. So it's a continuous cycle of change and adaptation.
Yeah. Go ahead, Stacey.
Back to you.
And that you took me straight into an amazing book. If you ever have a chance to read it, is Spiral Dynamics. And Spiral Dynamics is based on the work of Dr. Claire Graves. Dr. Claire Graves knew this guy named Abraham Maslow back in the day. And he said that Abraham didn't quite have his stuff together with that pyramid that
Hierarchy
he
of needs.
Hierarchy of need.
Yeah, his system was kind of incomplete.
Mhm.
And so he created a system called Spiral Dynamics that has eventually then been called Spiral Dynamics. A gentleman named with the last name of Cohen worked with him, and then Natasha Todorovic Cohen
Mhm.
is now the owner of Spiral Dynamics, and she has kept that system alive because it's a brilliant, very layered and in-depth system of how things spiral
Yep.
and how humans impact the tools, impact each other, and then go around.
Yeah.
We don't even have enough shows in the year to talk about all
Well,
of
we
the
do,
depth.
but we do have questions coming in. So I'm going to see. I don't know if I can. Does this? Oh, it's not going to show it to you. It seems like the powerful people behind AI, have more nefarious purposes than those who created MTV and other past scary things. That's a question from our
The
chat
ones who
today.
created the nuclear bomb,
Well, I'd be
maybe,
curious.
which is a version of fire.
Well, hang
I
on,
think-
but before we jump on it, I really want us to be sensitive to the fact that the
Yeah.
gap between what we know about AI and what AI is capable of doing widen every day. And I think that that's something that we just have to factor in. So I think a little bit of fear is justified in this because that gap keeps getting wider. It's like, wait a second, I'm not even really interacting with a real person sometimes when I call. When I call into if I've got a complaint about something, companies have figured out that it's a way to push the human interaction further and further away. And the only reason why I want to make sure that we keep this as a theme is that gap widens every day. Ray, do you understand sort of where I'm going with that?
Yeah, there's so many aspects, like Stacy and saying and yourself have put forward, that this could be like a series of calls. The human reaction to what do we know or don't know, and the fear factor of something that we don't have a relationship with yet. But for everyone who wants to do bad things, there are a bunch of people who want to do good things. So it doesn't mean it all comes to a happy forever ending, but it does allow for interesting stories to emerge. There were just as many when I started reading about the bad use of AI. There was immediately a group of people that said, "Well, we're going to counter that." So I think what happens is that everything. Well, Stacy, you even made allusion to the nuclear bomb. Is there again, being a bit of a history buff, I'll just quickly, when it first came out, they said that was going to end all war because
Mhm.
nobody would dare to use it beyond.
Mhm.
Well, look where we are now. It evolves into the unforeseen circumstances.
Isn't it interesting that a conversation about where is AI taking us can take us all the way from nuclear possibilities to how to better, in Sang's case, you work a lot with people in terms of getting AI to assist people with a task that's very difficult for them to do anyway, which is helping them find a job, right? So your work you've really been able to sort of improve that process and, find AI as a way to assist in that process. When you were first putting that whole, let me see if I can help people put AI together to find a job, did you find yourself, you know, being both investigator and applicator and tester and experimenter?
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, you're hiring a human being, right? And so the human aspect still has to stay within your resume. We can't just stick our resume in there and say, "Hey, rewrite it, make it all this fancy stuff," and then it's going to be me. Because you still have to be a human being who has an interview. You still have to be a human being who interacts with an email. You still have to be a human being who is reading. Now, are there tools that have been in place for resumes to be read faster? Because imagine if I got 500 resumes today. Do you know how long it's going to take me to go through those? A very long time. So they go through a system and they go through this. And so I do my best to educate my clients to say, this is how the process works. Because I'm a firm believer that if you know how the process works, you have a better understanding to how it works for you. I'm still a handwriting person. I will handwrite letters. I love email, but nothing's more fun than getting some handwritten note in the mail. And then, and also, I still have people will send their resumes in the mail. I would say put it in a bright pink envelope, right? Be like Elle Woods, okay? But do something that still gets you to stand out, that still represents your personality. Can you use those tools to help you figure it out? And that's so in my playbook, in my job search playbook, it goes through and asks you all these questions, not just about which tool to use, but also where you are in your career search, that then helps you decide which tool is going to assist you in that, which tool is going to assist you in your resume
Fair
piece, the
enough.
cover piece,
Fair
so
enough.
it's very
Those,
interesting.
those of you who are watching us on the Breakthrough Show Network in YouTube, if you've got some ways in which you're using AI that have really helped you improve your process, please share those with us. Because our topic this morning is, where is AI taking us? And what we've been talking about this morning is that, again, a lot of this has to do with how you're using it. And the fact that if you can talk about how you're using it and how you've individualized it for yourself, right? Because how Jamie is using AI or how Ray is using AI doesn't make what I'm doing differently, because Stacy said, well, it can fold my laundry and, cash all my checks and is making me, there's this kind of built-in inadequacy, this built-in ignorance to it. And again, I lean on you, Stacy, because, you've worked both with people for so many years in your, you have so many credentialed years, but you've also been daring enough to help people through with their anxiety about technology, right? So you have to kind of go to those spaces which are a little scary sometimes with people, right?
Absolutely.
So, go ahead.
And it's back to, before we used computers for things like brainstorming, and even computers existed, but let's go back to college or graduate school or even high school, and you've got a group project and everybody's like, oh God, group projects, I hate them. Well, why do you hate them? Because let's say we had a group project. Oh wait, we're in the middle of one right now, right? A group project, and is everyone participating? And is everyone participating at the same level? And does everybody do the same things? No, we don't all do the same things. In a group, when you do a group project, Sang is amazing at handwriting the letters. Jamie is amazing at bringing the people together and organizing the discussion. Ray is great at bringing the resources and bringing it all together at the end. And Stacy mixes everything up while we're at it, right?
Right.
Like literally this particular group project we're in right now. But the reason people usually are terrified of or don't like group projects is because of the fear of what are the other people going to do. But what, we would one of the aspects of group project is brainstorming, running ideas off of each other. AI has just brought us another tool to do that with. That is I always say the AI kind of like those of us who grew up with card catalogs in the library are brilliant.
System, yeah.
Are brilliant at prompting AI. We just don't all know it yet.
Right.
Correct.
But Stacy, in all honesty, let's talk about the idea of using AI for brainstorming. I have fought like hell many times to make sure that my AI stays on Copilot and doesn't take over and say, well, I'm thinking through this idea, and it says, it's like a toddler, that just kind of wanders into certain areas, or it becomes like an intern that just says, well, I think your business should be run like brr, 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 brr. And I'm like, wait a second, stop getting ahead of me. And I literally will sometimes say when I'm working on a brainstorming idea, I have to remind the AI that, I don't care what fancy things you can come up with. I don't want you to impress me. I don't want you to solve this for me. I want to be able to still have a conversation with Sang, Stacy, and Ray, and the people who are watching us. That's a real human interaction. But what can you offer me that, Ray, we use that term, AI is also like augmented intelligence. Is there a way to control our use of AI so that it augments our experience? Did you want to talk a little bit about that, Ray?
Yeah, the interesting thing, and love what you guys have just brought forward this is about how do you support human activity and human thinking, not interfere with it. One of the techniques I've been working with a couple groups with is essentially the value is what you were saying, Stacy, in the brainstorming or the exchange of conversation. So how do we respect that exchange and that encounter and then use AI? So what I started to do was a group of 15 people. Essentially, we had this deep conversation. And typically, the minute you're off the call, you forget what you said. So
Right.
what I did is then I used AI and I said, do you mind if before our next meeting, if I do a visual summary to explore the ideas, the insights, and what was discussed so that you can continue that conversation? So I generated that, and people were amazed at the visualization because it added coherence to, like, a conversation is a multi-directional exchange.
Right.
So AI supported the human interaction, and it brought forward what the ideas that were generated by humans. It didn't try to say, "Oh, Stacy needs to do this." No.
Yeah. Well, let me do one thing. If AI had been working, hello, good morning, Ray, had been
Oh,
working
you need to
correctly this
move.
morning, this would have been the topic that we had last week. But there was a human that failed to update it last week. Last week we talked about, are you really choosing what inspires you? This week we're talking about, where is AI taking us? And you can just join us in the discussion room as our guest at rsslive.org, or you can continue to watch us on the Breakthrough Shows Network's YouTube channel. But again, it is kind of coming up with this whole idea of, where are we in the discussion, of allowing people to sort of take their power back from the AI experience, right? And Stacey, you started to talk a little bit about that. That's part of that journey, right? Is allowing people to sort of, instead of being reactive to it, become responsive to it and choose to say, well, how would you like to integrate this, right?
Right. You've got to start with where any human is at any given time with any given thing. And that's whether they're looking at using AI, whether they're coming in the room here in Rise and Shine Sundays and deciding to be involved or not. You need to start where they're at, and in any of our relationships with each other. We need to always look at where is the other person, and that they are exactly where they need to be at that time. And so are you. And then coming to okay, where do we want to go, either as in a relationship or individually, and respect that journey. And that's the same with, what do they want to use AI for, or what do they just want to learn about it so that they know what their grandkids are talking about?
Right.
Or do they want to use it
We have another comment from YouTube, which unfortunately, now that we're in Ripley, you guys can't see. So you're just going to have to listen to me when I read it, which is, it seems like that there's a tendency of AI to get ahead of it, which was one of the things that I was talking about. What is the possibility that AI will get to the point where we can no longer stop it, as in what we see in the movies? Now, I know you're laughing, saying, but what would you say in response to that?
It's been around. Like it was around before people even knew it was a word that we're talking about right now.
Mhm.
So how do you stop something that was started before we even started having the conversation, where it was a mainstream conversation?
Before we were born.
Right. Like this was,
Even Jamie Rich, it was even around before Jamie Rich was born.
I don't know, he's 108.
108 years
I
ago, you
know.
mean? Come on.
Yes.
That's not
So
possible.
because the original study at Dartmouth, which is where this started in 1956, right? That's where this started. Like,
But let's
that
not.
conversation, and it's been around. So it was around before, again, before we had started having these conversations, and now it's a mainstream topic. But what happens is it floods us. And so when it floods us, we're all overwhelmed by all the pieces, and then we just don't know how it works.
Good. You said one important thing, which is the idea it becomes ubiquitous. It's flooded. It's all around us. But just in the same way, Stacy took us to the very beginning of this conversation, back to the concept of fire. Fire is still around today. It is still creating harm where it happens, but we as a society have to do our best to contain it. We have a fire department that will come to our aid when something happens. There's some things you want to say about this, don't you? Stacy, please add to it.
We're still cooking food with it. Thankfully we can cook our food with fire. I mean, that's the thing is you've got the two different, there's our world is, I'm going to say bipolar, and people use that word very much just concerning a mental illness descriptor, and it's not. Bipolar meaning when someone says black, someone else thinks, oh, white. Someone else says hot, someone says cold. Our world is built in these opposites. And that is a cultural, societal human construct.
Right. So, Ray, it exists at all these different levels, right? It's in the macro, it's in the micro, it's in the personal, it's in the way our businesses are structured. So, how does a human being possibly unpack that, other than to simply understand it?
Well, I think what's interesting is both Sang and Stacy had mentioned something, is technology when it's first introduced is highly visible, but over time it recedes to the background. It becomes invisible, and that's where they use I think it was Arthur C. Clarke that said magic is technology is like magic. It's you can't figure out when it's first introduced to somebody who's never seen it. It looks like, wow, how did that happen? Well, and back to saying is there's always a way to understand what happened, but essentially, back to fire. Fire is a form of energy that evolved into electricity, which is a form of energy, which evolved into something for cooking food, for heating houses and wherever we are, to generate energy to propel vehicles, be they cars, planes, or whatever. So, and we're talking about new forms of energy. So essentially, fire changes form, or what energy changes form. So the technology is going to change form.
Right.
And somewhere along the way, we're going to have to introduce science fiction movies.
Well, right. But, again, I love what emerges in these conversations, because you just used something that we had not talked about before, which was a recognition that AI is a different type of energy. It's a different way in which you can take, like what Sang was talking about, all of this detailed data that's out there, and you can process it in a way, all of that designed still to allow the person to get the job, right? That, it's a way of taking all of the internet overwhelm, all of the informational overload, all of that, and harnessing it like an energy to put it to use so that the individual can keep it invisible and kind of in the hip pocket. Does that help, Saying, in terms of, because again, the the AI that you do or that you work with that helps people find a job, if you will, does it so that you take all of that information so that the people are not overwhelmed by the process of the job hunt, but put the power of the AI to use for them. And
Right.
all of that then is able to go in the background so that you're able to do the job that you as a human are supposed to do.
Mhm.
Is that how you see it?
Yeah, and I will say in the terms of the job search world, it's almost like all of the AI is around, but we still have to go back, what I call back to the basics, right? Which is again human being, because now there are tools out here that will say, your resume was written with AI." And so it will automatically kick out because again, there's that human element to it. So it's like this tug of war of, well, how do I know when to use it? How do I know when not to use it? How do I know to use it here? Do I use it here? Do they think I'm lying? Do they think I'm fake? They're like just different things, and becomes very ambiguous, and it causes a lot of overwhelm, and not just in the job search aspect, but I feel like in any aspect when people are trying to use AI and finding which tool again works best for you and what your intention is behind that tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stacy, please.
And I love how we were talking, Ray was talking about the evolution there on fire, and how it is energy, because that made me think of what we're doing right here, and energy, that words and that come from our thoughts. So think about our thoughts go into words. Words have vibrations. Vibrations have frequency. Frequency is energy, and energy impacts us all.
Mm-hmm.
So our thoughts, our very thoughts, impact everybody else, and our thoughts impact what we end up making, which then made AI, and then AI impact, and we're back
Yep.
to that back and forth.
But if we really want to make sure that we honor the human experience as the primary, right? In other words, you could take this entire conversation that we're having this morning and put it into AI and draw a conclusion about it, right? As if there is something that's magical in what Sang is saying, something magical in what Stacy's saying, and what Ray is saying. But the reason why we have these conversations on Sunday morning is because it's important as humans that we know how to continue to have discussions with one another. There's a way in which we can show up. We're using a technology right now. This is a background that was created by AI. And thank God for Sang and Ray, the technology worked correctly this particular Sunday. But I don't want to minimize this whole idea of where we're coming to as far as the use of AI. The human being comes first in terms of that, and that you can personalize your experience by, understanding there is, just like there is fire safety, there is AI safety. And I'm not for sure people talk about. Yeah, go ahead, Stacy.
Well, I think that is humans being primary is the first part of it, and humans have four things. We have choices that have consequences. We have rights, and we have responsibilities. And it's kind of those are the four things we learn as teenagers. Well, we're supposed to learn as teenagers. We may or may not always, but we always have choice. We have choice, and the choice has consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what always goes back to those four things: choices, consequences, rights, and responsibilities. And we have the choice to use the AI to grab all of the thoughts we're speaking of this morning. But I use that choice so that I have more time, that I can interact with these humans.
Right.
Right. So I use the choice to use the tech so that I can interact with humans more. And not everybody uses their choice that way.
Right. And our beloved Jessica just reminded us that one of the rules of fire safety is, of course, to stop, drop, and roll. But we don't. And it's so funny that she should mention this, because we do not have a stop, drop, and roll for AI safety. And that is something that I think, again, we've lagged behind, because that gap between what AI is capable of doing and our understanding of it widens every day. we haven't had a conversation about AI safety in a concrete sort of way, because we've just been so feature driven. Look, it can do this, and look, it can do this, and look, it can do this, and look, it can
And
do
should
this.
I just say that
Yeah.
that AI would never have told us stop, drop, and roll. And it was because of that art in the human head and the
Mhm.
brilliance that is Jessica that, I mean, and it's that we
Right.
still think differently than the machine does, because all AI does is patterns.
Hmm.
It calculates words. It does not and cannot do the human art. And I will say that, and I'll stake myself on this now, AI is not ever going to replace the human art in anything, including what Jessica just did.
And Ray, what I would like for you to do right now is to prove Stacy wrong. Could you
Go
go to
ahead.
an AI right now and find the counter argument to what? No, I'm just teasing. But there
No.
is that, you're very good at systems and structure and the analysis of things. But do you find that this analysis, if you will, discussion is not happening in a lot of places? There's just an acceptance, like we have to put up with what's happening with AI. It's inevitable, right? As opposed to, wait a second, can we stop? Can we intervene? Do you find those? Because I know you have conversations. I know you have conversations with people all across the world.
The interesting thing, I think, is to connect all the thoughts again, is the sad part of the human condition is our technologies will always outstrip our ability to, or the gap, I should say, the gap itself is never completely closed, because what we've been talking about today is the technology is out there capable of so many things, but we as humans haven't had these conversations. As you just said, we haven't caught up yet. That's why these conversations are so important. What Sang is doing uh, around a specific topic, helping people to understand, how do I use AI to get the jobs that are important to earn a living? So that is the conversation, the sharing, the inquiry, the exploration that is so important, and that Stacy actually referred to as well, is that is having this conversation so that we can say, okay, so we're actually creating our own
Drop. Right.
drop and roll. Yeah, I keep thinking the other one, duck and cover. Sorry. Oh, that's nuclear tech. Sorry.
See, that's going to
Fire,
be our
nuclear, same thing.
That's right. And that's going to be our challenge between now and next week. We'd like somebody, if they've got an AI safety rule as clever as stop, drop, and roll, or
Right.
duck and cover, please put it in the chat. Please share it with us. Because it is important. I'm also going to say that, one of the things that we do here, there's a way for you, if you'd like to be part of our conversation, not just today, but at any time, by coming into this little arrow. This little hand is pointing to the space where you can be in our room. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can also, if you want to, sit with us while we're having our discussion in this room, because we're just that fancy here at Rise and Shine Sundays. We've got all sorts of things happening in the room. Look at that. And we do that through the correct use of AI, right? Because there's an artificial intelligence that allows us to do this. But the way I like to make sure that we use this is so that it doesn't, that it augments our experience and our interactions as human beings, right? We're getting ready to wrap up, if you can believe it, another hour of Rise and Shine Sundays. And I feel like we've only scratched the AI surface. May I kind of go back around to see if there's anything else that you wanted to add to this subject? I know, saying you've helped so many people along their way with AI. There's some reminders that you would tell, like if I were a person coming to you for a job search, what would you tell me about AI? Is it going to find a job for me magically?
No. It's not going to find your job magically for you. It's really about how to use the tools themselves. I do love what Jessica said in the comments on YouTube too, where the stop, drop, and roll was actually not from AI, right? It's from the human experience. I think the same thing is happening in the job search place, right? We see AI happening, but it actually, we're reverting back to the human experience. I still am hiring a human being. I'm not hiring a computer. And then things that even in this job search place where we're talking about what I said, companies are now are creating another form of AI to say, are you writing with AI? Right. So now I'm clocking the AI. And so that becomes a safety, personal privacy issue as well. And I think getting to truly understanding, again, how these tools can work for you. If we think about innovation and technology, everybody creates something to make our lives easier. However, when we're inundated with 200 million of them at one time, like my hundreds of shoes on the wall, it's very hard to try to make a decision when I have 10 friends who use 10 different tools and are telling me it works for them.
I love how the shoe analogy is, there are 100 different shoes. There's millions of different shoes. There's millions of different widgets. The purpose of the shoe is to still assist you safely while you're walking, right? And with that goes back to one of the things that Stacy was asking us to look at, which is the idea of choice. How do you choose to use it? Were there some other thoughts that Stacy that you wanted to make sure that were included in this discussion?
I think it goes back to whether we're talking about AI or anything else, actually, what are the human feelings?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it you feel about the thing? Where is that coming from? And what do you want to do next?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's that you don't ever want to touch AI, that's okay. You have the choice. Now, does that come with consequences? Yes. Touching AI comes with consequences. Any action comes with consequences. And then, the rights and responsibilities if you choose to use it or if you don't choose to use it. And I think but it's coming back to the feeling that you have initially about things and sitting with the feeling. Where is the feeling coming from? What feeling do you want to have in the future? And let's go there.
Love that. Ray, how about you?
Just to tie into what you've both have shared is the importance of having conversations with others. Is look what we've done today. And the group discussions. Each discussion we have with somebody else, we approach the discussion just as Stacy has indicated to find out what are people feeling, what are people wanting to figure out, basically saying, like, what are you trying to do? That's the great, inquiry is the great starting point, and then making decisions based on that and setting up your own boundaries. And I think that's so important. And a few folks that I've had discussions with about AI say, well, I don't like it. And I don't want it. And I said, well, let's talk about that.
Right.
Well, then all of a sudden the fear was shifted to part of the conversation, not dominating the conversation. So then, just like Stacy just said, you don't have to use it, but there are consequences so experiment, be courageous, try something small, share it with us. So I think that these type of conversations, and just one last loop back to Carolee joined us in the gallery area. She's contributed some thinking in the chat within this space. So she made the conscious choice. I want to listen, but I'm giving you some thinking and my thoughts to this process. So others can do as Jamie's invited, can have that. So and she basically said, oh, I really enjoyed today's conversation. Well, look, we gained something just by showing up.
Right. And if you are, and thank you for Ray for running us up that way. If you are watching us on the YouTube channel, one of the things that Ray was talking about was, joining the conversation. The Breakthrough Show Network allows you to listen to, participate in, and engage with a number of different conversations. So I would say hit that subscribe button to be part of the Breakthrough Show Network. We're delighted to be here every Sunday on the Breakthrough Show Network. You can join us every Sunday morning. We're going to be expanding our program so that you can actually come in before the show if you'd like to. You can do that via RSS Live. But if you'd like to find out more about what we do every week, you can go to riseandshinesundays.com. But again, we're very grateful to be here. As I've said many times, the wonderful thing about the way in which we work here is wherever you choose to show up is fine with us. We want you to be part of this conversation. This is something that we want you to participate in, whatever level is comfortable for you, to wake up to what's emerging. I'm so grateful for, I felt so great that each of you brought your perspectives to a conversation that is so complex. And I feel like, again, even though we scratched the surface, we did get to the key concepts of it. And I now I'm going to be spending the rest of the week trying to come up with a stop, drop, and roll idea for, and maybe I'll come back with that for next Sunday. Any other final words from anyone before we close?
I always like to invite people to you. I typically give everyone a sentence, like a template, kind of to say, I want whatever this platform, whatever this tool is, to help me with blank. The result I want is blank. That will help you determine how this tool works for you. And so that's my invitation, is for people to use that template to kind of help them gather which tool works for them.
A well reasoned, well said, and a very welcomed way to end this particular episode. If you have ideas about topics, because this is a live, unscripted guide on the side, none of us are experts in terms of what we do. We speak from our lived experience, and we're here to inspire a conversation that gets you going on Sunday mornings. Thank you to all of you for helping us rise and shine on this Sunday morning. And again, the Breakthrough Show Network offers a myriad of programs. So as we say goodbye on this Sunday morning, we'll look forward to seeing you back here at 10 a.m. Central every Sunday here on the Breakthrough Show Network. Have a good morning.